Registration is really important. Planning and the actual process of creating the print itself rather than the print making is an art form of itself. I will go through this with you here in just a second. When making a registration template, I would recommend on a plain sheet of paper that you're planning on printing on the back side of it, kind of mark where you're going to place your matrix. You can use the standard borders that is recommended, or you can deviate up to you, your personal preference and how you want this print to be made. The rule of thumb is you'll want to have even spacing on the top and the left and the right sides of the print, with a little bit extra room on the bottom for additioning, naming, and signing. So for example, if I was going to do this little make space guy on this, I'm deviating a little bit by still having some wide margins on the right. I'm going to have some room on the top here, but I'm leaving basically double the amount of room on the bottom, maybe 1.5 room on the bottom for additioning and stuff. And I'm just going to go lightly with a pencil. You'll want to use a pencil because pencils are archival and can easily be erased. And that will be our little registration thing. Don't use masking tape, either on the paper or on the machine. Pencil and alignment is more than adequate. And then sometimes I worry about the residue that any kind of tape, masking or not, will leave on the machine. And we don't want to leave behind anything on the machine. Blankets, plexi, bed. The bed actually has little stoppers on either side, so you can't pull it out all the way unless you were to really force it. Like I said, don't force the machine. But it literally can just be pushed and pulled because it's sitting on some rollers. It's also very heavy and sitting on rollers. The only way I can do this is because I've actually haven't touched the roller yet to press onto anything just yet. So I'm gonna grab my handy dandy little guy and I'm going to try and place him kind of near the center of where the roller is going to be going on to through the machine. You'll see that this guy is very loved and very old and a little bit dirty, but we'll be able to see all the registration marks here. But it is down to your personal preference whether or not you want your print to emboss. But to avoid embossing with a matrix that is a different shape, you'll create these things called runners. And it's what the roller will hit on either side of this when it goes across. So for example, if I wanted to, let's put this where the registration is, right there. The paper underneath is where we're going to align up our paper so that we get the same spot every time. Like it's what we've created our registration to be for each print. For example, I will be pulling away both of these things to re-ink and to make sure that I have it in the same spot every time. The paper underneath will act like a guideline for every time I print for both the matrix and the paper that I put on top of it. The registration is most important for prints like this, for example. It doesn't make so much sense for something small like this, but it will make more sense for something like this, where in this style of relief print, you have multiple reliefs that will need to be in the same spot every time for all of the different layers of color and print. To set the pressure, you'll be meeting resistance, lowering it down onto your print. And once it gets loose, that's when the roller is sitting on top of your matrix and your paper. In order for this thing to become a printing press, add one more crank all the way around to set your pressure. And if you want more pressure, less pressure from here, up to personal preference and what you want to do with your art. There's a quality to printmaking that is called embossing, and it's what happens when the pressure is really heavy and it pushes the print itself into the paper This kind of thing is usually reserved for lithography, woodblock prints, anything that's super square. And the runners can either be made of the same material that you cut it out of for ease. For example, if I wanted to, I could cut long strips of this guy to have on either side. Or if I want to save this and I don't have those scraps, I can just use cardstock to the same height of the actual block of the actual matrix. So I'm going to grab some of those, and I'm going to grab a couple more. So that when this gets pressed by the rollers over top, it won't have that embossing effect. I know it's a very square design, but for example, I would be concerned more so with a design like this, where I wouldn't want it embossing all the way around and being in a weird shape. So let's set these guys up. I'm not going to ink it just yet. This is what I call a printmaking sandwich because you have a bunch of different layers. You've got your registration, you've got your matrix, you've got your runners. Ta-da! If that's the sheet of paper that I'm printing onto, then I would always have a piece of newspaper on top of that as well to protect the blankets from anything. So this is, the pressure is now set up to this guy. And now we can start inking and test printing our matrix.